Chocolate makes everything better, right? Right? Oh, for me. Thank you. Everyone get one? All guys? Did somebody get Freddie up to the balcony? Can't forget that dad. How many of you have seen on the last few watches since Easter, on Sunday nights, there's been a series on NBC called AD. Did any of you watch that, the AD series? It's well, there's still a few more weeks left. You really need to check it out because, thank you. Much like on a couple Sundays around Easter, I showed some video clips from the Bible series. This is like the next stage, so it's really following the early church through the book of Acts, and one of them really enjoyed it because partly I think this is where I want to go the next couple of weeks. I'm going to teach a little Greek this morning. Can you say Kainos? Kainos. It's actually a word that means new. And I thought I could have just put new up there, but I want you to know that now that I'm commissioned, that maybe I've got a little more intellectual capacity in my But what's interesting about the AD series, and one of the reasons I want to push into a conversation over the next couple of weeks, so I know it's summertime, and partly I'm trying to do something that maybe will engage you, so that maybe you will, when you're tempted to go to Starbucks and hang out or come to church on a nice Sunday, summer Sunday in June or July, maybe we can continue to have a conversation. But just the messiness of what the early church really looked like. And I think, 2,000 years later, we sometimes forget that everything that was going on was new for them. And the AD series really has been useful to sort of put in perspective just the messiness of the early church in coming online, if you will. So Jesus leaves, and he has his ascension, and he says, okay, I'm going to send the Holy Spirit, and guess what? You guys are on your own. And I don't want you just to stick around in a holy huddle in the room there in Jerusalem. I want you to go to all ends of the earth. A couple weeks ago we talked about the Great Commission, about being sent out from Jerusalem to Judea to Samaria, which means the outer reaches of the world, and we're supposed to take the gospel story. And I just think we need to wrestle through, partly because I'm thinking through, even though it's still about 4 years off, our 200th anniversary in 2019. What does that look like for us as a church? And, in terms of the place we've been, what did Jesus have in mind? What did Jesus, when he left, did he picture this? Did he picture Linden Road, Presbyterian Church? Is this what he saw? Did he see, a TV? Did he see lights? Did he hear sound? Organ? What was it that Jesus pictured? Obviously, because he hung the stars in the heavens, he sort of could help see the future. But it's interesting, there's a lot of new churches in town. You think about where we started 197 years ago, 95 years ago, down actually the block house, and then eventually it was where the library is now, and then now we're here, and actually we were over there for a while, and then we built this new space. And I want to challenge us a little bit this morning about, and over the next few weeks, about what does it really mean to be the church? There's a lot of churches in town, a lot of interesting churches that have sort of popped up when you think about the newer churches like Crossroads or Heartland, which is down near Lexington. Both of those are boxes, basically, that they don't look like this church. Structurally, they don't have a steeple. If you drive by, in fact, Heartland used to be a factory. If many of you remember, Crossroads, before it was Crossroads, was actually, wasn't it Farmore? It was a pharmacy. And how today when we build buildings like that, we don't build it with windows because we want to create environments, we want to be able to use technology in a positive way to help tell stories. And I know that stretches us because, again, I don't know that Jesus really had that in mind. And if you go to any of these churches, you go take a look at their kids ministry area, which is like, it looks like going to Disneyland, literally. It's got lights, and it's got a stage, and there's lots of loud music, and there's lots of video. So it doesn't look like anything like maybe what we've experienced. And many of the new churches, the idea of a choir, the idea of a pulpit doesn't exist. And the cool thing is, even you've leaned into this a little bit. guys, we really don't have to wear ties to church anymore, right? Is that a woo-hoo? Is that a good thing? but maybe this will be even a better thing. Women, you don't have to wear high heels? Yeah? I mean, think about that. And partly it's because our culture's become less and less formal and more leisurely. And we could spend some time, a whole couple weeks, talking about whether that's a good or a bad thing. But this morning, I just want to wrestle through a little bit about what is it that God's calling us to be. You know, sometimes the older stuff gets in the way. And with all the changes, there's still some things I think that we've got to be aware of. So if you've got your worship notes, you might want to get them out and just follow along on the outline as I sort of lay out a couple ideas this morning. The first thing I want to lay out is that the idea that we still hold on to things that hold us back. And partly we do that because it's safer. Partly we do that because it's what we know. So we hang on to things that we know because it's better than what we don't know. It can become confusing. And what I want us to really wrestle about is what is it that causes people to resist going to church now? I mean, Mike references, Pastor Mike, when he was here last week, talked a little bit about how the church has changed, and just what I've learned a little bit being a youth pastor and having even pushed through in a particular way the study of the Presbyterian Church, and as I've sat with other men and women to the cohort to try to just have a conversation about what does the church need to do? What is it that we need to look like? And I want us to think about what made the early church, like if you watch this series AD, made it so irresistible. You know, what's really kind of interesting is that most of the things that people resist about church are the things the church should resist. We can try that. Most of the things you resist about church are the things the church should resist. What I mean by that is sometimes we get things so set up in our traditional ways of doing things that we don't. So even, let me just try this. We all know the Gloria Patri. We know after we do the confession of our sins and we get our pardon of sins, then we stand together and we sing this great hymn as a reminder. But if you're a new person who's not been to church and you walk in the door for the first time, you're like, okay, what is that? And you're not quite sure what the little numbers mean. I mean, so these things, it's comfortable for us because we've been raised in this tradition. Sometimes we need to think a little bit more about how those outside the building see us. Now, let me just try a definition of what the church is so we can sort of have some common ground this morning. I want to suggest that the church is simply this. It's a community of people who follow the teaching of a man sent from God to explain God and to clear the path to God. The church is a community of people who follow the teaching of a man sent from God to explain God and to clear the path to God. So, even a couple weeks ago, I took it to an even more simpler level of really what is it that God wants us to do? What does God really desire from us? So everybody said there's one rule. It's basically love God and love others. As we were thinking about our children's ministry. That if we just even get that first thing right, the loving God, that the rest of it will sort of follow suit. Because it means that as we pursue Him, even Mike challenged us last week about abiding with Christ. And if you remember, even my candidating sermon back in October was the same kind of thing, to challenge us to think a little bit about just if we love God ourselves, and if we live out of that overflow as we relate to each other, then there's things that's going to happen to us just naturally, because as we chase Him, He's going to reveal things to us. Now, God sort of knows that the world today doesn't look like what it did when the early church was first established. So there's a tension there, because obviously they didn't have Snapchat, they didn't have Instagram and all these other things that sort of confuse us, and maybe create some noise that maybe isn't the healthiest. But I want us to think about, in the context, I want to tell a quick story. I shared last week with the kids about my trip to Kenya. I was sitting, actually it's the village of Kisumu, which is about 2 hours north of Lake Victoria in western Kenya. The young man's name is Emmanuel. He's 24 years old. He's just finishing up his last year in college. And he and I had an amazing morning together. He actually, this is the young man I've shared stories about with some others about how he rode his bike 2 hours to meet with the Americans because he wants to come to America to study because of what he's heard about the American church. And I want to think about it as we think about the context of the early church, as video series AD is playing out, or even think about the news of this week about the church, about how messy church can be, how a place of refuge becomes a place of horror. And yet, if any of you heard any of the news this last week, and you actually heard the video testimony, for example, when the young man was being presented to the judge, how the family members went through one by one and just said how though they were broken and hurt by his actions, this young man's actions of taking someone's life, that they forgave him. Which is just crazy when you think about it. And if you hear those words of these people, I mean, it's heartbreaking to think that out of their brokenness they offer that. And so it's interesting that Emmanuel really wants to come to America because he thinks there's something here in the American church that he wants to emulate. And I wonder about that. In fact, as I challenged him, it's like, why do you really want to come here? He really couldn't give me any particulars. He couldn't give me this, that, and the other thing. He just said he really believed that America was what he calls a shining city, as he's heard, and believes there's much that we have to offer. And so when we think about that, the reality of really, I don't know that I want to export what it is that we have as American Christianity, because it's become very consumeristic. And when you think about the messiness of our culture, it seems like we're not really being salt and light, that there's so much brokenness. If you would think after the horrors of the Civil War, that a young man, I just can't put my mind around it. It's like, are we not any closer to these sort of larger questions? And yet, still, a young man in Kenya, some 9,000 miles away, wants to come here because he believes there's something we can offer. And so I think we need to wrestle through, for our own understanding, what it is that God's calling us to. Now, I want you to think, too, in the early church, for 300 years, the primary resistance to the early church was this. It was that people were persecuted because, and this is very clear in the AD series, they were persecuted because they already had a king. And the idea of Jesus being their king was something that they didn't like. I even suggest Caesar was offended by it. In fact, right now the series is all about Caesar has created a statue, and he wants to have delivered all the temples to the temple worship space. And the local guy isn't quite sure, the Roman guy isn't quite sure what to do with that, because he knows that it's going to create some uproar, because there's this whole sect of people who were Jews who are now following, they're following this guy Jesus, they're part of the way, and it's really kind of a mess. So people didn't like Christianity, not because of our weird music or our fact that we're judgmental, that we're exclusive, but they didn't like Christianity because people were loyal to Jesus Christ. They already thought they had a king, and so the idea of Jesus coming along and saying, no, I am the new king, didn't play very well. And in that context of the early 300 years of the church thrived. But, and I guess, wouldn't it be cool if the only bad thing people had to say about the church or about Christians is that, they could actually say, we make great neighbors, we make good bosses, that we treat women well. Isn't that amazing? But they think this guy, Jesus, is God. Okay, I don't know what to do with that, if that was the only thing. But if you think about how, even in this community, over the 200 years, how many different churches there are, and how many times those churches, or even, what's an embarrassment to this community is there's a piece of property out on the west end of town that's this empty shell of a building because some folks couldn't get along. And I've had many conversations over the years about how is that possible? How is it that people who name Jesus as Lord can't figure out how to be a kingdom expression? Now, that doesn't mean that we don't need varieties of churches, that we don't need, because I know folks that have gone to some of the bigger churches, and it's intimidating because you walk in, and Crossroads, I know, seats 1,100 people. That's a lot of people. And yet there's the beauty of a space like this that's smaller, that allows intimacy and allows a sense of knowing who we each are. So, I just think that the idea that we today, living in the 21st century church, that we need to think about what is it about us as Christ followers that makes people resistant to know about what it is Jesus offers. I've never heard the reason that people don't go to church is because we believe that Jesus is king. I've heard plenty of other reasons why people don't come to church, because people are hypocrites, because they're judgmental, because I don't like the kind of music they play or what they want me to wear. It's never that. It's never about Jesus being king. And so the church needs to be irresistible, except for that one fact of Jesus being Lord. And in fact, if you think about it, one sense is, who doesn't want their life to be better and to be better at life? And even if we can sort of offer, and this is one of the reasons why I think the story of the young man in Kenya is that there's something about us as Americans and our view of the world that creates a sense that even if, for example, Rotary, some of us are involved in Rotary, even though Rotary isn't necessarily, it's a nonprofit that does good, it doesn't name Jesus as Lord, but the fact is, I would argue, that one of the reasons that Rotary even exists is because good men of faith realize they need to do something in their community by connecting others, sort of rotating their meetings and trying to do good. And now Rotary has almost eradicated polio, which has been a scourge of the land for many years. We're just down to, actually, the commercial right now says it's that close, because literally it's just down to about 150 cases last year. And I can remember growing up, my parents had good friends they were in high school with that had the scourge of polio hit them, and how the iron lung and all those kinds of things, and how cool is it they were that close. And the only reason why it hasn't been eradicated is because where it happens to be sort of thriving right now is in Pakistan and that area of the world. And the problem there is that the soldiers and the military folks don't want the human rights workers to come in to offer it because of this, the connection to the American dream. So what happened? What happened in the context of where the early church was, where the only reason why people didn't connect was because they were struggling with the idea of Jesus being to God? What is it about the irresistible things? And I want to give you an idea of what we're going to spend the next couple weeks to talk about this, because I think this is where it's at. There's this thing, and it sort of represents all the ancient religions. We're going to call it the temple model. And it really goes back to ancient Rome, actually Egypt, even before Rome. Even the Jewish system was built upon this. And so there's 4 points there on your handout. First is that there was a sacred place. There was a place that was like the temple in Jerusalem that was carved out that was sacred. There were sacred texts that people read. There were sacred men that read those texts, and mostly men. There was very few opportunities for women. And then it was all driven by sincere followers. Now, what's interesting, if you go to third world countries that have mud huts, like where we were in Kenya, we were in some parts of Kenya where the mud hut, the witch doctor, was like the most powerful guy in that community. And because he had his sacred space, because he had his sacred text, because he had people that followed him, you didn't get close to the witch doctor's house because he could put a spell on you. On the other side, today for us right now, you think about this mess in Syria and Iraq, it's because we have people who are sincere followers, who are following sacred men, who are reading sacred texts in a sacred place, and they're doing unspeakable things to free citizens. It's horrible what's happening. Back at Easter time, there was the young men, the videos that went viral, the 21 men that were the martyrs that they rolled out to the beach and then beheaded. So the temple model is alive and well, and I want to actually say too, it's alive and well in the local church. And there's some things that I want us to wrestle through as we think about this over the next couple of weeks. But here's what the temple model does. It gives extraordinary power to sacred men in sacred places who determine the meaning of sacred texts. Now, to be truthful with you, that's not much different than the local church. I mean, you just commissioned me, and I just went through reading some sacred texts in some sacred places, at the mission center, and have been given by some authority through the Book of Order extraordinary powers over this body of believers as part of the presbytery, and yet it gets complicated. Because really, I mean, you need me here because you can't possibly open your Bible and read the text on your own, right? No? I mean, how could you possibly do that? You really need Hebrew and Greek, which I don't have. But that's because I got a new version of my Bible app. But seriously, you really can't know the Bible. You really can't pick this book up and read it on your own, can you? Well, no, you can't. And that's part of the thing I want us to look at this morning as we think about what Jesus has done, because Jesus came to set it all new. Like the Kainos, as I'm calling this series. Because here's where it really sort of hangs. That Jesus was the end of the temple model and the beginning of something entirely new. And I think we miss that. I think it's the temptation, if you even look at the ancient nation of Israel and how they journeyed through the Hebrew people, from Genesis all the way up until Jesus comes, we never quite get it right as God's people. They struggle, and even when Jesus shows up, and that's the most amazing thing in this AD series, is to see it visually played out with actors that are trying to be true to Scripture of just, what did it look like? The tension. So 2 weeks ago, they actually had the encounter between Saul of Tarsus after his conversion with Peter. I mean, have you ever thought about, we talked about this in the men's study, what do you suppose that first meeting looked like? I mean, we read the Scriptures, I think we kind of miss it, but do you think Peter, who's known about Saul being a persecutor, do you think it was open arms and embracing? Did that first encounter? In fact, he did it very well. It's like, Peter's like, I don't even talk to you. You killed my best friend. And so I think as the early church and even the traditional church today, traditional being small t, just the idea of the church and what the church is in America, that we need to wrestle with the idea that when Jesus came, is that the whole system got turned on its head. Jesus gave us the Great Commission. Jesus says, look, the message isn't just for here in Jerusalem. In fact, what I want to tell you, if you read the book of Acts and you read it through, you see that Jesus is saying, I want you to get out of here. In fact, I got to go back to heaven with God the Father so the Holy Spirit can come and empower you because you've got work to do. Now, that's an interesting tension when you think about who is saying that, because this is the same Jesus who is the incarnate God who actually hung, as we believe in our Scriptures, the heavens and the sky. And the idea is that you don't need a high priest anymore. You can actually, the beauty of today is, it is so easy for you to read your Bible. It isn't like Jesus came and was going to do the Temple 2.0, sort of this new idea. It's like, no, he's coming with an idea saying it really is about who you are, not about what the system is. So let me just walk through a couple points here. First of all, Jesus predicted a new movement. You may remember there's a conversation where Jesus is talking with the disciples and he says, who do you think I am? And Peter says, what does he say? He says, you are the living God, you're the Messiah. And then Jesus goes on to say, you're right, Peter. In fact, I tell you that you are Peter, you're right, and on this rock I will build my church, he says. And so Jesus announces a new movement. And really, here's where it really gets kind of interesting. And this is where I want us to wrestle a little bit. So the word church is actually another Greek word for you, ecclesia, which got translated when they translated the Bible back when William Tyndale did it got corrupted. And so the idea was not a building, not a place. It was about the gathering of people. So when we ask people, who is the church? The answer is, we are the church. You are the church. We are the church together, as the Vacation Bible School song goes. And you see, we've got to wrestle with that because it is about the space. It is sometimes realizing that sometimes the space limits us. And I don't know what that means, although I will say this, it's been interesting. Every Presbyterian church, as well as Methodist, and many mainline churches, not one of them can you walk in straight off the street. Right? I mean, think about it. Any of the great churches you've been in, even this great building, to get in the building, you can't come in just right off the street. So they have the barriers that you place in front of people. Now, we address that. We put steps in, and there's an elevator so that you can have access to it. But when you just think about how welcoming our space is, and you think about how restaurants and grocery stores and all sorts of consumer places think about that access, so I think we need to wrestle with that. And so when you think the church, you usually think about a space or a place, but I want you to understand that there isn't anything sacred about the space. And I think that's part of the reason why we live in such an interesting time where we don't value the other person. So to think this young man going into that church on a Wednesday night Bible study sits there for an hour Some say he actually prayed with these folks, and then he pulls out a gun and says, I have to do something. How does that happen? It happens because we don't value each other's place in the story, because we don't value the idea that each of us are sacred. The same issue, and I don't want to go into the politics of it, but the idea of abortion. There have been 50 million abortions since Roe v. Wade. And I understand the agony of rape and incest and life of the mother, but we've used abortion as a means of birth control. And that has to have an impact on how our kids see each other. Or even to the senseless thing that still isn't resolved yet, that was in the news from Thursday afternoon, where the kids are down at Pleasant Hill at the dam, and one of the girls, for whatever reason, jumps over a barrier that says, do not go here, jumps in the water. Two of her friends jump in the water to save her, and they end up losing their life. The one young man, Austin, his body still has yet to be found. And as I've been talking to some students, because I didn't know the girl who they rescued, but I didn't know the young lady who lost her life, Chloe, Ernest. She came to the youth group at New Hope, and I just struggle with why is there this messiness that we can't seem to resolve. And partly it's because we need to understand that there's a new day that's come. So here's another point on your outline. That Jesus, point 2, instituted a new covenant, a new understanding. He says it in Luke. In the same way, after the supper, he took the cup, saying, this cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is poured out for you. Now, I want you to think about something. That had to be a crazy statement from Jesus. I mean, for you to think about, at that Last Supper, this is Passover. I mean, this is a big deal in the ancient Hebrew tradition. This is a big deal. And Jesus, sitting there, says, this is a new covenant I'm making with you. Which really had to sort of play with their minds a little bit. Now, I want to suggest as they walk through the Passion, as you call it, literally, as we walk through those days of Jesus' last life on earth, before his crucifixion, as he was being crucified, that all of a sudden the idea, because can you imagine sitting there with him and him saying, the cup is the new covenant in my blood? It's like, what are you talking about, Jesus? I mean, the only blood we know about at Passover is the blood that's put on the frontals of the door to keep to mark the spirit of death away from your covenant people. What does it mean that you're pouring out your blood? And as they realize what this final sacrifice meant. So I want you to see that Jesus gave new meaning to that in a whole different way. Now this may be sort of weird, but I'm trying to think of a way to sort of for you to think about what really happened. I mean, try it this way. Let's say that Pope Francis, he announces, he realizes that his time is about finished here on earth, and he announces, okay, next year at Christmas, I want you to honor me. I mean, just to even say that just sounds weird. I don't want you to honor Jesus anymore. I want you to honor me, because it's about that kind of a radical thing that Jesus was saying to these Hebrews. He just totally was like, the guys are going, wait, you're not Moses. Because they don't know, they've seen Jesus do some interesting miracles, but they didn't, it's like, well, Moses delivered us. And it's like, Jesus is saying, sort of, well, just wait, you haven't seen the whole story. Or Jesus is like, I'm going to rescue you. Moses rescued us. He took us across, and that's why we celebrate this thing called Passover. So you see, we have to wrestle with what this really means for us as a church. Let's just go on a couple more points here. Jesus gave a new meaning to the sacred text. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Remember, Jesus says, a new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. Now, Jesus isn't just asking for random acts. Jesus showed them. He healed people. And most importantly, this is, I want you to think about this. In some traditions, they still practice the idea before we do communion, they actually wash each other's feet. Mainly in Brethren churches. And so Jesus, the Lord of the universe, who's been walking with these guys for 2 years, he actually takes it and he gets, comes away from the table and he gets off and takes off his robe and he gets down on his knees and he has a basin and he actually washes the stinking, dirty feet of the disciples that he's walking with. Now, what's interesting is I want to suggest that Jesus did for them what they refused to do for each other. And I think those of us as Christ followers need to think about what does that mean. Because Jesus says, now, I've done for you, I want you to go and do likewise. And he turned it upside down. And really what Jesus wants us to do, not literally, but the idea is he wants us to wash more feet. In those moments when we're trying to figure things out and it's kind of messy in church, is instead of grumbling and griping, it's like, no, I want you to be a servant to each other. I want you to wash each other's feet. Because the humbling nature of the leader getting down on his hands and feet and washing the feet of the person that serves him is just a whole different paradigm. Jesus goes on to say, do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish, but to establish. Jesus has given us a new message, a new understanding, a new way of looking at life. That it's not Temple 2.0. There's something entirely new in terms of how we treat each other. In fact, as I shared about the students a couple weeks ago, as we talked about that one law and one rule, that there's over 615 laws. In Jesus' case, they reduced it to a verb. And he applied it to God and he applied it to our neighbors. So after the resurrection, there was this amazing start. But then what happened was, and it goes back to this temple model. Because you see, Jesus also, by talking about loving God and loving others, instituted a new movement defining ethic. This is how I want you to relate to each other. And so we need to understand that impacts how we walk with each other. And again, I want to go back to this final point, where I started, which was the first point. I said when Jesus was the end of the temple model, that there's been some temple thinking that has crept into how we see the church. And so over the next couple of weeks, I'm hoping we can figure this out together as a conversation, so that we can do our best to embrace whatever this something new is that Jesus was calling us to. There is an irresistible nature about who we ought to be as Christ followers, and that one of the reasons I think that we're unnecessarily resistible is because we've allowed temple thinking, the idea of the sacred space and the sacred text and the sacred men to drive, and really Jesus is like, you don't need any of those things, you just need me. What you saw in Jesus, he says to his disciples, he actually says, what you saw in me, I want you to do for others. And so over these next couple of weeks, we're going to try to strip away and just look at what does it mean to be that? What does it really mean to be new? Or this word, Kainos, what does that really mean for us? And what does that look like as we lean into the future of what God is calling Linden Road to be? And not just Linden Road particularly, but even as a larger church of Mansfield, as we begin to think through even our own messiness, as we've seen demonstrated, like the shootings that happened a few months ago, and just how do we as a community, through our regular agencies like the World Center at Salvation Army or other opportunities, come to address that. So let me pray and then we'll respond to the song. God, we are grateful that the model that you gave us is your life, Jesus. That you desire for us, that you came to set things in a new way, and in a way that just sort of maybe challenges us to think about what it means to be the church. We're grateful for the life that you've given us and the opportunity we've had. And we pray for the opportunity that yet lies in front of us as we think about what our next 100 years looks like. So as we move through today, we're grateful for the dads in our audience today, in this room, in this space, the dads that we are in relationship with today, and those dads that maybe have gone on, the legacy that we are for what they've spoken in our lives as our earthly fathers. But in all that, we know that you are our Heavenly Father, and that you have provided. And so on this amazing day of beauty, we just give you our hearts and our voices. We just thank you that you protect us and that you guide us in the midst of not knowing that you go before us. And so we just pray your presence now. In plastic remains. As people said,